Hi, everyone, and I think this is the last time I'm going to say this for today. Good afternoon. We've had 6 excellent sessions with groups of expert speakers talking about both technical and thought leadership topics, all meant to help organizations navigate and thrive in modern times. Now, we have one more session for all of you to wrap up this event in a neat little bow. On this forum, industry experts weigh in on key learnings from the conference, trends and market observation, insights and way forward for 2020 and beyond. To discuss all of this, I would like to welcome back TechOne Global and Enadoc co-founders Lars Jeppesen and Wasantha Weerakoone. They are joined by Rey Lugtu, founder and CEO of Hungry Workhorse, fellow Institute for Digital Transformation, and country representative for Institute of Change Transformation Professionals Asia. Hi, gentlemen. Are you all still filled with energy?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much.
All right.
Absolutely, yes, Sarah, we are here.
Yeah, I don't know about the bow yet, but I'm missing those days where I had hair. I could put in a bow, but I can see both Ray and Vasanta might join you on that. Uh, so I'll just have a baseball cap or something instead.
Okay, and I think this is the first time Ray is going to be is going to meet our audience, so to speak, right? So I'm sure you have a lot of valuable insight to share with us. And with that, I'll hand over the digital microphone to you all.
Okay, thank you, Ara. So I will kick off here, and I hope that you all enjoyed the full day that we had. For some of our team members, it started like last night, and we had, I think, all in all, a successful day of good presentations. And with a few minor technical glitches, I hope that you were able to log in and see the presentation and the session that you wanted to. And we have all of our sessions also online for viewing at a later stage if you didn't get it today. So we started out this morning with this slide, or this was one of the slides we started out with, basically talking about digital transformation, how this kind of lead our life today, and especially in the last few months with the pandemic across the world. We have been fast-tracked into digital transformation in areas that were not moving so fast before. Technology is always early, and I think most technology companies were more or less ready to work during this time. But when it comes to businesses and policymakers, there was a bit of catching up to do. So digital transformation, we have been advocating for the last many years, and I'm sure that a lot of companies, they wish they had done that earlier. When you go back the last few weeks, one of the speakers earlier today said that 12%, I think 12 or 14% of employees, they could work and do their full job from home during this time. That also means that the 82, 83, 84, 85, 88% of the employees could not. And that basically were the lack of preparation of their organization or maybe their industry, and policymakers have been catching up. We've seen, the digital parliament, the digital courthouse, the digital bank emerging in this time, the digital farmer. We have seen suddenly the farm to market became the farm to consumer kind of approach. So the traditional businesses have gone from analog to digital very fast. And if you look at the transformation, basically, I'm sure that Ray can chip in more later on. If you look at the three main pillars of digital transformation, then you will find that you start out by, if you can show the next slide, please. You start out by basically digitizing and fixing the past. digitalization is the present, focus on the present, and the digital transformation is creating the future. I don't need to get too much into that now. We have covered that to a wide extent earlier, and I know that Ray will talk a bit more. Maybe Wasantha, you can fill in on the next slide. You are on mute.
I'm sorry, yeah. Okay, we had a very interesting presentation in terms of process automation, where UVET started with how Microsoft, applied its own technology to improve the finance function, and in fact, then we talked about the technologies what you can use and the methodologies what you should be followed, and in fact, we didn't talk much, but we ourselves have applied our own tools to optimize working from home and our workflow management and document management and content management solution, which has helped us to implement our own, we can say, the COVID task force, or to act and reply and respond to that situation. In the session, we talked about what was the ultimate goal. The ultimate goal for any company should be its stakeholder satisfaction, which is internal or external, including employees to suppliers to government or the authorities to its owners. So driving this one by creating value, doing various different things actually, and also to make sure that the business exists tomorrow under any circumstance, so the business continuity by applying the technologies what is available today. So this was our summary, and I think we will proceed to the next step on this.
Yeah, so Ray, I think the stage is yours. And the mic as well, if you turn it on.
Thank you, Wasantha and Lars. No? So that was a good, a great, prelude to what I will discuss. No, digital transformation can, be, creating value to your, customers, making them satisfied and business continuity. But in our engagement with several organizations here and also abroad, we always start at the consumer and the buyer. No? We transform our companies. Companies are digitally transforming because of consumers and buyers. No? So buyers can be consumers or business buyers. No? And in this time of COVID, we have seen a number of new personas that has emerged. No? So the consumer persona now is different. No? We should not be mistaken that the consumer that we know previously before COVID is the same. No, they are different now. So we have discovered 5 emerging personas: the problem solver persona, those who look for problems, who solve problems, and find new innovative solutions to their problems. Emotional expressionists are the ones you see in in social media ranting always. Understanding seekers are those who try to understand what's happening in this environment now. Help and support seekers are those looking to for support from other companies and individuals. And the problem avoiders are simply those who try to forget what's happening. And these different personas will reside in one person, and there will be dominant personas. And these personas are coming from a major need within any person now globally. And this need is what we call the need to cope. So coping is a bigger need nowadays, and it drives consumers to consume differently, to buy differently, which should drive companies to transform also in that manner. Next slide, please. On the other hand, business buyers, their behavior as well are all about coping. So business buyers are composed of different stakeholders. You have the CEO, board members, and the executives. So several studies here and abroad always are pointing to 3 types of personas. One is the wait and see buyers. Those companies who have stopped buying with no investments but keeping the lights on. The rational, cautious buyers, they buy only necessities such as software for work from home. They research online. They are hard on vendors. And then lastly, the strategic investment buyers, they continually hire and look for investment opportunities. These are the true digital transformation companies that invest in digital transformation. So you see the kind of buyers we have now amongst consumers and business buyers. There's new personas that has emerged, which should drive the digital transformation amongst organizations. Next slide. Now, Wasantha spoke about creating value to customers as well as satisfying customers. Now, in our consulting work, we provide 4 types of business model innovation. The CEOs right now and executives are looking to innovate their business model, and unfortunately, many executives only look at innovating their profit model. That is just jumping into the bandwagon of e-commerce. E-commerce is part of a profit model innovation. There are other several ways on how you can innovate your business model. You can innovate your business configuration composed of your structure, processes, and network. You can innovate your product platform composed of product performance and product system. And lastly, you can innovate your customer experience, which is composed of channel, brand, customer engagement, and service. And all of these, you can innovate all of these different components through technology. So technology now is at the heart of digital transformation. And as mentioned by Lars, companies are now are forced to digitally transform. And before, technology was ahead of digital transformation. Now companies, businesses, individuals, and even public policy are playing catch up because now everyone is being forced to transform. Ara?
Yes, Ray. So, all right then. Now, I think Lars and Wasantha, you guys have something to add as well.
Yes, absolutely. I think this was a fast track from 0 to 100 in a few seconds. Understanding of where we are. I think I like the term forced. I mean, businesses and governments, policymakers are forced. We are also forced as individuals. I think most of us, at least those of us who are parents, are also experiencing digital transformation fast track on our own personal lives, and our kids being now forced to stay at home and study from home. I guess laptops and devices are on the top of the wish list for most people these days. So with that, I think we are ready to kind of look into the day and kind of summarize what we have looked at. I don't know if you had the chance to attend all the sessions, but there was a lot of good content and a lot of very timely advice on how to basically take your organization from 0 to 100 during this time. And I think if you go back and we look at our workflow and robotic process automation session, in that one we learned that we have basically already taken hundreds or thousands of companies through this process during this time. So there's no bad time, there's no wrong time, and as Mr. Walter, he started out by saying, you are late. If you are not there right now, you're already late. I normally say just do it, but I know that, and I also use in my slide one or other term, do something today that you would have thanked yourself for tomorrow. That means tomorrow we are kind of there right now, and I know that very few businesses is something like 1 or 2 in 10 could actually say that they could operate successfully without going to the office. So we had all the end-to-end. What is the impact on working from home? If you were able to join Trish and Nikki's presentation, they talked about the employee engagement. One of the issues of being stuck at home is at one hand you might be more productive, but productive also means if you burn a candle and it burns very fast, then you reach burnout also. So what is the way that as leaders, as HR can reach out and make sure that employees are also maintained with their mental health? How can we provide leadership for people working from home? And I think one of the things that we mentioned in this session was also the weekly game night we have introduced in our company using Kahoot. So we have a Friday game night that we join in, and where we play some games and everybody's having fun. But if you go through the sessions, I think there's a lot of good stuff. Wasantha, can you chip in? What did you enjoy from today's session?
In fact, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the first session. While I've been in this industry for last 30 odd years, Walter and Murali put excellent weave to some areas that we are not being, seeing. So I think it was a good eye opener in how you look at it from the cloud and enterprise perspective, and how the buying decisions are being made. And to Walt, just refining how what is the process automation is, in the framework. And in fact, it was as interesting as all the HR stuff that I heard. And obviously how, if you ask me what is the best one, I would say I liked everything. If you ask me to choose, I think I'm hungry enough and I really liked how Ray put it finally, putting, if you apply to all the 4 or 5 areas what we are talking about, the transformation that Ray discussed can be applied. So it was very, very interesting. And I wanted to just mention one thing I think we missed to talk about at the end last. One of the interesting things is working from home. We all talked about it, but one thing we missed to tell is one of the challenges we had working from home. That was not being able to know what the other person is doing. And so in the morning, when you wake up and when you get in online, we don't know how, we normally used to have a cup of coffee, discuss whatever the thing, the stand-up meetings of course happen, but beyond the stand-up meeting, how things are moving, not being able to track and understand has been a challenge. So we had to invent and find some technologies to counter that. That has improved significant improvements into our productivity. So that one was one of the things I missed to mention. So I'm just repeating it. But anyway, these presentations are available later. So I think that will be announced by Ara. I think that's it from me. And
yeah, maybe you can just move to the next slide. We have some
some speaker highlights.
Yeah, some speaker highlights or some key take home. I think there was a lot of technology talk today, but I think the bottom line is still human. We talked a lot about where the human aspect is of this, and from the engagement of employees to how to develop your processes. We had a very nice session, talking about how to use post-it notes to create your what is that tongue twister, Ara? Digital, Jepp should be here. He's the one who came with the name of his company, but it's a tongue twister for me. Digital, what is it called, Ara?
Dexteries.
trajectories, yeah. And of course, we don't know the DXC technology, what DXC means, but I'm sure there's a tongue twister as well. Very good to have Morali here on the call as well, talking about how to really use the business processes and how to I don't know if that is from him, start small, learn fast, and think big. But the sound bites here are excellent. We had some veterans, sorry for using that word, but veteran people from our good friends at Microsoft have joined us today. Thank you very much from them as well. And we have one more slide, right?
Yes, we actually have
more sound
some
bites.
more.
I think if you can basically go and read this at your own convenience later on when you review the presentations. A really good session. Thank you for also for our good friend Harsha for joining in from Sri Lanka. So we thank also those are companies that Tech One partner with on a day-to-day basis beside Microsoft. So we work with MyHCM and Just Analytics as well. And our own HR manager in Philippines also stepped up and gave her insight onto how to basically manage the situation, and I think completely in from 1 to 0, from 0 to 100 in a few days, because she literally just joined us a couple of weeks before the lockdown, so thrown into a very hot water with a lot of activities and a lot of things to be done. So I would like to use the opportunity to thank you. Thank you to all our partners, and we have questions. There's a few questions on. I can see them on the side of my screen here. So I don't know if you'll go through them. So
we
anybody else can also answer than me. Ray is still on the call.
Yes.
And Santa is there. You cannot see them, but I can see them.
Yeah,
and
I
they're
can
still
see them.
moving. So that means they're still available to answer some questions.
Yes.
So I'll bring it back to you, Ara, to go through that.
All right. Thank you, Lars. And thank you, Wasantha and Ray as well. We do have a lot of questions coming in from the audience, and we do have enough time to go through them. So let's start. The first question is from Rakesh Wahi. Thank you for a very informative session. There has been a general hesitation from companies to transform owing to security. An important aspect is education of the consumers, and forums like this will be very useful. I recommend that you do these more often. Please try and start these a little later, even by an hour, as people in the Middle East can also benefit from the session. Okay, so it's not really a question, it's more of a statement. I started that off as if it was a question.
No, but yeah, we had that comment already from Wasantha, because even for Sri Lanka, it was a bit early. Yeah, so we were a bit selfish over here in Southeast Asia of using Singapore time, but we also had to accommodate Walter, who was sitting up at 10 o'clock in the evening. And Kato, I don't know what time actually ended up being for him, because he's in Norway, and as far as I know, but I'm from Denmark on the same time zone. He's been sitting there like in the very, very middle of the night doing this session. So it's probably better to do this in a little bit more regional way, but when we get all the speakers together, it's also an opportunity. But thank you, Rakesh, for the comment and for the advice. I think your question around security is very important. It was also touched by, I think, Morali of DXC talked a bit about it in his session about, when we give all this data out in today's world, the consumer, the citizen, the employee has a right to be concerned about how this data is being kept, how the data is being kept confidential, and that the data is not kept for a longer time than it should be. That means the right to forget, the right to get my data out of your system when I'm no longer a part of your organization. Those kind of things are really important concern. We discussed in that session a bit about the whole compliance, and I think in the last few years, the Silicon Valley companies have taking over the world, and it's very few of them who have really taken the privacy and the concern of the end user in mind. Most of the companies in Silicon Valley have inspired companies outside in the world to become a harvester of personal information. I think with all credit goes really to Microsoft, that has never really been positioned in any way as a company that is living off, selling your data. There might be somebody who will argue on that or dispute that, but the business model is definitely to supply a product and charge for the product, and not to supply a product and make money on selling the data. But that is a real concern these days. I mean, I myself have had the experience over the last few weeks of going digital with some local digital cashless applications, and when you read the data privacy statement, it's rubbish. You basically give your life. We have the right to take all the information that you provide us, including your location data, your transaction data, the money in your account, whatever bank secrecy used to be with banks are no longer there in the digital environment. And that is a concern, that you can just hand over that to any third party affiliate company that might use it for whatever they want. I know that some of our speakers, like Jeb Lewis, is also engaged in some other companies that has looked very seriously on this data privacy concern. So security is a concern, and it's a must that is taken very seriously. We do that ourselves, both internally and externally. So yes, back to you, Ara. Some more questions?
Yes, we do have more questions, and this one is for Ray. How has consumer behavior changed drastically amidst COVID-19? What were the basis behind the personas shown?
Okay, yeah, consumer behavior. So we have since the start of the quarantine, we have studied how consumers are buying, and we've seen some drastic changes. And it's evident. Malls are closed. Restaurants are closed. Of course, behavior will change. The physical changes will change the behavior. But what's driving the behavior nowadays is the need to cope. That is the overarching need now. There are several needs that we satisfy as consumers. We need clothing. We need nourishment. But coping now is the overarching need. And the basis of this is some psychological writings in psychology, and previous experience in crisis like this. So the 5 personas that I mentioned, that is based on some framework on coping. So we validated that with several consumers here in Manila, and yes, it is happening. So coping is the overarching need that is now being met by consumer goods companies and product companies and services companies. And just to highlight what coping is. Coping is when our resources cannot meet the demands we're facing. And our resources can be mental, emotional, spiritual, and monetary resources. And right now, people are coping. There's a lot of consumer studies. One study was conducted last month by a local company in Philippines, and it mentioned that 70% of Filipinos in Metro Manila are having a hard time coping, while 10% are really struggling. So imagine, Lars spoke about work from home. The difficulty of having connectivity in itself is coping. It is coping because it is the lack of resource to meet the demands of work. So think about the overarching need of consumers now. It's coping. We are in a crisis. Right? We are in a crisis, and it's going to last. According to WHO, for at least 5 years. And my forecast here is that we as humans, we will learn to live with COVID-19, and we will learn to live with death beside us. That's going to happen, and it is happening now. People are going to malls as if nothing has happened. And so That's going to happen. But behind that, no, people are struggling. No? People are losing jobs. No? People are looking for connectivity. No? So people are looking for transportation. People are generally coping now. No? So those 5 personas are personas based on a psychological framework that written by a famous psychologist. I cannot pinpoint the name now, but and we tested those, right?
Mhm.
Excellent.
Okay. All right. Now, thank you for that, Ray. Now we have another question, and I would like to direct this to Wasantha. We see a lot of models for digital transformation. How do we select the best fit for our organization?
So in digital transformation, we talked about the 3 stages of the digital transformation, and it depends on where you are. So if you're on the stage 1 where you have to fix the past, of course that is where you need to start. But if you're already digitized, then if you wanted to move on to the process automation, I think that is the center of the stage where today most organizations are looking at. If you have not been digitized, it is quite difficult to move on to the second stage immediately because of the physical limitations of not being able to digitize. So that means you're already late. That's what we've been talking about. But if you're in the center, or at least you have digitized some of your artifacts in the organization on the business process, now it is time for you to look at business process automation as the center of the stage, because that can unplug your employees and give them the freedom to deliver whatever they have been delivering it better in a much more you can say effective way, not even sitting in their own office, right? So once I think that is where somebody should focus. Of course, there are many things that will have to be added on top of it. Then once you cross your perimeter, you need to talk about your security, and once you're inside, of course, you need to talk about security, and how can you improve those repetitive process? How can we apply this what Ray was talking about, how we manage or how we help people to cope with issues. So this is where, but I think still the center should be on the process automation. That's how I see it.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Wasantha. Now we have one question here, and I would like to get everyone's take on this. How can organizations start with, I assume, digital transformation, and where do you start? Because there are a lot listed in your slides.
Yeah. So I think it ties in nicely with the last presentations that we had here. You have to start with your customer. You have to understand where your customer is and what is the position of your customer, what is the situation, and if you're talking about transformation of your organization, that's where you should start. When I say customer, it is your employee, it is your citizen, it is a consumer, it is the business to business customer, it is your client, whatever you will call that person. That is where you start. And I think when Ray talks about the 5 personas that have emerged now, of course, those are very generic. But I think businesses that has been able to deal with the pandemic and the lockdown have transformed earlier. If you, for example, take it a bit out of the scope of today's discussion and look at food. If your company is relying on people to come and sit inside your restaurant and order in a very traditional, romantic, old-fashioned way, then those are the organizations, that type of organization that has most difficult to survive in this situation. But if you look, for example, at a pizza company who have been generally taking most of their orders online and having very little people actually eating inside the facility, inside the restaurant itself, those have felt the least impact of the transition. So understanding who is your consumer, if your consumer is now sitting at home and still would like to get that food that they used to get in your restaurant, how do you transform your business to deliver that food to them? Does it make any sense? Will they be able to get that experience? And you have seen the mode from depression to panic to trying to find a solution on that. So as a company, start looking at who's your client and how did your client buy from you 6 months ago, and where's the client now, and what is their motivation for buying, what is their buying behavior, what is their challenges, and try to solve that problem. That's how you should look at the digital transformation to address those issues.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Lars. Wasantha, Rey, anything to add to that?
Yeah, Wasantha, you can start.
You're on mute, Wasantha. Sorry, let's do that one more time.
Okay, so I think it's the whole story is we've been together, and what Lars talked about this personas to where we are supposed to start the business, and but if you look at the pandemic, and if you have been referring we have been referring to this over the whole session, but in a while we will forget this. But is it going to be is it going to be, are we going to refer to this one for next 2 years or 3 years? Or so if not, what is going to be our business strategy over the next 2-3 years? After a while, we will forget this, but Rey said it's going to be for 5 years. But are we going to be scared of this situation for 5 years, or are we going to find solutions for that? So if we are in that, if we are to find a solution, of course, there should be some medical solutions that should be found before everything else, I would say. But even if they found a medical solution, this is not going to be the last pandemic that we are going to see as how it is transforming, because we see we have done enough damage to Earth, and we have done, I think we have created this the whole thing ourselves. So in that sense, we need to be prepared not only for this, but even for the future. I think in that sense, we need to look at what Rey was talking about, how to innovate in these different areas to sustain the businesses, not only in one direction right now, but how we see is to deal with this automation. Process automation is the key, but there are many other things, the business model to various other profit models to everything has to be renovated over the period of time. That's how I personally feel.
All right.
Okay. And Rey?
Yeah, so the question is, how can organizations start now? So let's classify organizations. So let's talk about first medium to large organizations. There's a concept called dual transformation. So dual transformation means a medium to large organization will transform day-to-day operations to cope with what's happening now, and then you have future-proofing your organization, because of what's happening now. So dual transformation. So the first transformation part of dual transformation is the day-to-day operations. And the priority there, for example, it's driven by employees and your customers, as Lars mentioned. And what are employees doing now? Work from home. So a lot of companies now are prioritizing work from home technologies, collaboration tools, and so on. Surprisingly, still a lot of large companies do not have a decent collaboration tool. You'll be surprised in Philippines. So and then how do you transform the day-to-day satisfaction of your customers, if that's the case? So a lot of companies have partnered with logistics companies to do that. So that's the day-to-day part of transformation. And CEOs and executives prioritize this because this is the immediate requirement of your internal customer and external customer. Now, the second part of that dual transformation is the future-proofing of your transformation. This is where you now look at 3 years, 1 year down the road, 2 years down the road, and this is where you integrate the day-to-day operations to the future proofing kind of transformation. This is where you look at future solutions like AI. That's one of the topics here. Some other technologies that may be required in the near future. So that's for medium to large organizations. Let's talk about small and micro organizations. So where do they start? So a lot of companies now, especially in entertainment, in tourism, they're struggling. And the question is, how will they transform? Right? How will they transform in this kind of environment? And really, the prescription there is, analyze the environment that you are in. If the environment that you are in cannot support a business, then there's no need to digitally transform your business now. You have to move to a new model of business. So, for example, I always speak about the emergence of community commerce. Community commerce now is a big thing. During the start of the quarantine in March, I studied this extensively and even participated in it to understand the behavior of buyers and sellers. So now it is now a big phenomenon globally. You see, community commerce happening. You see barter communities sprouting. So big companies now are utilizing community commerce within villages, within large communities in cities to distribute their products instead of using their existing logistics to deliver. Instead of using physical stores to deliver. So community commerce now is emerging model to replace the small and micro enterprises that will close as a result of the pandemic that we're experiencing.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Thank you very much for that, Ray. Thank you, Lars and Wasantha, for answering that question. We actually have one more question, but if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to take this one. So the question here is, I was not able to join the other sessions. Can we get a copy? Yes, we will send you guys on-demand versions for those who signed up. And you'll get a copy of all these sessions on demand. Okay. All right, then.
Fantastic.
All right. Now, unfortunately, that's all the time we have. For other questions that haven't been answered, or if you have questions that you weren't able to send us, you can send them to aliana@techoneglobal.com and we'll answer them. Now, we have guest exclusive offers that I'm sure you will all want to make the most out of. Get one-to-one analytics discovery. Get one-to-one analytics discovery session to deep dive on current data landscape, challenges, and real-world viability with Just Analytics. You can also enjoy free decision lightning jam sessions, courtesy of Digital Dexteritas. And on the next, you can get 50% off Microsoft Business Basic and E1. And you can also utilize the HR Transformation Workshop, an in-depth digital transformation workshop specifically made for HR departments through MyHCM. You can also get free MyHCM HR for Microsoft Teams so you can create a seamless employee experience in your organization. And that's it. That wraps up our Asia Pacific Business Innovation Summit. We do hope you all enjoyed our sessions and were able to pick up a lot of new information and valuable insights for your organization. Again, thank you, Lars, Wasantha, and Ray.
And thank you, Ara.
Thank you.
And thank you to the team behind our setup here. I know that you have been working hard, all of you. And it's been a very good event for us. So thank you very much for your hard work and your contribution for this event. And I'm sure this will be the first of many similar events. And we will learn from today as well what was right and what was wrong. And then we will improve the future events to be better timed for people in Middle East and, having better sessions for a more diverse audience, maybe focused on specific specific industries, specific countries. So, but thank you very much to the team behind and to all the speakers who have been up late night and early morning, and not only today, but in the last few weeks when we had some dry runs and some pre-meetings on this one, including like a Friday night at 10 o'clock and things like that. So thank you very much to everybody who has contributed.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks to all our speakers. And of course, many thanks to our audience who all tuned in and sent us their questions. Now, we look forward to having you all in our next events. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.